Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Thrive and Prosper podcast. I'm Ari Page, and today I'm really excited because we've got Keasha Neal joining us. She's the founder of Kapital Keys Solutions, LLC. Actually, she's got a couple companies, and her story is such a great example of what's possible when you combine determination with the right financial strategy. When Keisha first came to Fund&Grow, she was like a lot of business owners. She had the vision, the drive, the goals, but she needed access to the kind of funding that could actually help her scale. Fast forward, and now she's secured over $102,000 in 0% interest business credit. And what she's been able to do with that has completely transformed her business. We're going to talk about what that journey looked like, from the challenges she faced in the beginning to some of the biggest aha moments along the way, and how she's using that capital to grow and expand today. So Keisha, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ari, for having me today. I'm excited to be here as well and just to share my story with everyone. So I'm excited to get started and just tell you about my process with Fund&Grow and how I am, utilizing the funds to grow my business.
Awesome. So let's start in the beginning. Tell us a little bit about Kapital Keys Solutions and what inspired you to start the business.
So Kapital Keys Solution is a broker. I am a broker for Clear to Close Capital. I know you've heard of Clear to Close Capital. So I assist investors obtain creative funding either with Fund&Grow or with a hard money lender. I have access to over 100 lenders that offer funding for DSCR loans, fix and flip, commercial. So I am a broker in my business, and I just assist other investors with obtaining the capital to their dreams.
Awesome. And so what you'll do is you kind of match up your client with the best funding source for them and kind of help them out.
Yes.
That's a really great business to be in, especially right now. People need that leverage. So you received $102,000 in our process through the program of 0% business credit cards. Can you walk us through that number and like how long did it take? How many cards, rounds of funding, and what was your mindset going into that process?
So my mindset going into the process of working with Fund&Grow, it was skeptical at the beginning. But as my mentor said to me all the time, scare money. So I had to just get into the game and get into the zone because I knew that I needed to obtain funding to grow my business, all of them. So I was able to obtain $102,000 in funding, 0% interest credit cards with Fund&Grow. It took me about 4 rounds to complete the process, but I was able to get funding for 3 of my businesses. Each business has its own separate funding and credit cards so that I could use those funds, obtain different things. Like one of my business, I invest in real estate. So I was able to get funding to use funds for a down payment for a property. I was also able to purchase a business vehicle with funding. I was able to cash out on the credit cards and use the funding to purchase a vehicle at the dealership. I was also able to use funding for tools because I have an RV business where I fix and flip RVs and rent them out like Airbnb. So I was able to get the tools that I needed to build that business and to have it grow.
Wow, that's awesome. So that was for multiple different business types. So in real estate, when in your real estate business, how easy was it to use the business credit card to fund the down payment?
Oh, very easy. It was very easy because I was able to cash out the credit cards using a wire transfer, and the funds were able to be sent directly to the title company.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Yes, it's pretty cool. People don't know that you can do that. That you can take a credit card, swipe it, and boom, they will send a wire. Now, with the company vehicle, most people when they buy a vehicle, it's actually a secured loan. So they don't actually have the asset of the vehicle. But when you bought your company vehicle, if you bought it using an unsecured credit card, then that means that you own that vehicle outright.
That is correct. So I was able to even get the title. So the title came in the mail. I have the title in hand. The car is free and clear. Fund&Grow assists me in knowing exactly how to use credit cards. So not only was I able to use these credit cards for, to cash out and to build my business, but I've also been able to, for example, before I went into funding, I was always using 0% interest credit. I've been using 0% interest credit cards for about 16 years in the past, and I know how to roll credit cards and, to cash out on one, to pay another one back, or whatever the case might be. I've been able to do that on the personal side. And now coming into contact with Fund&Grow, I've been able to use that for my business and to grow my businesses.
For someone who's considering Fund&Grow, what advice would you give them? What should they know, or what should they be asking before enrolling?
Well, you definitely want to have a strategy. So you want to know exactly what it is that you want the funds for and what you're going to do with those funds. Because once you have the funds, you have to utilize them right away. Because there's 0% interest, the interest rate does have an expiration date. So you want to be able to use those funds, cash out, and like for real estate, for example, you have to be able to get everything done quickly. So if you're using those funds to rehab a property, you want to get in and you want to get out. You want to be able to fix that property up, refinance it, get all that cash back so you can pay those credit cards back. So you don't want to just sit on it. You just want to have a strategy going in. Because I've also partnered with Fund&Grow, I would say contact me so I can connect you with Fund&Grow so that you can go through funding and, build your business.
And there's a variety of different types of loans that investors can make use of. For example, the Fund&Grow program is only one of the programs that you refer to, because in some cases, a client might need a DSCR loan or a mortgage or a home equity or a business line of credit. There's a variety of different types of funding that you can get. So yeah, I recommend contacting Keisha, because Fund&Grow is one way. It's one way, and you should have this in your arsenal. But you're also going to need others. You're going to need others. But let me ask you, Keisha, how has this funding changed your overall business operations or your cash flow or your overall growth trajectory compared to where you were before?
So starting my business, all of them, they were brand new businesses. So I was able to come to Fund&Grow with businesses that were just starting up. And Fund&Grow was able to assist me to obtain the capital so that I can start my business, get the marketing done, go forward, and just utilize the credit cards so that I don't have to use my personal funds to grow my business. I'm able to have everything separate instead of combining them together and struggling, to be able to fund a business and get a business growing.
And have you used all of the funds, or, you just strategically using them?
So I strategically use them. I've been able to obtain the $102,000. I don't use them all the time. I shouldn't say that. I don't use $102,000 at one time. You know what I mean? I strategically use them because I have a strategy where I want to stay ready, so I don't have to get ready. Because once the rounds end, then I'm able to use those credit cards. I don't want to have my utilization too high to where, I can't go through a round of funding if I need it. I do actually plan to come back for another round of funding in the future. I was able to also bring my friend on my last 2 rounds of funding. I was able to just add a partner in. Everything is separate, and I was able to bring her in, and she was able to obtain $75,000 as well.
So your file was $102,000 plus $75,000.
Correct. Yes, I was able to bring my friend over, and she was able.
Wow. So that's actually $175,000 for that one fee that you paid.
Yes, that is correct.
Oh, we should have led with that. $175,000 for a bunch of different businesses, because you own 3 businesses. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep, that is correct.
Now, we've hit on some really important things here. And one of the first things, before I forget, is you have to be ready. You have to be ready when the deals come. And so you weren't waiting to get the funding. You were getting access to the funding so that when the deal was there, you could take action. But you weren't doing it in such a way where you weren't ready to take action. You knew what deals you had coming up the pipeline. You had your different leads coming in. And so you had to get that to kind of quickly, like you have the funding coming in. Now you got to line up the deals. But at the same time, you can't do a deal without funding. And so you have to have the funding first. So some of the things I heard was being ready, and then also the ratios. So the ratios are important because what Keisha brought up is that if you have a personal credit card, you can't use more than 30% of that card before your personal credit scores start coming down. On a business credit card, it's more in the 55 to 60% range. So I can still max out that card to about 60% if it's a business credit card, and I can still move forward with subsequent rounds of funding, meaning it's not going to stop me from refinancing and getting more funding. But if your ratios are maxed out, if we go back to the personal credit report, if you have a personal credit card and you have more than 30% of the balance to the limit on that card, there is no credit stacking going on. And so what Keisha was saying was making sure that all those ratios were in the right range to be able to apply, and keeping them in the range for when she's ready to move forward with the next round of funding. So these are really important things, guys. And also, if you go with Kapital Keys Solutions, then Keisha is going to help you determine those ratios to see which ones of these programs are going to work best for you. But let me ask, Keisha, has the Fund&Grow program changed your mindset at all using business credit cards, or even the idea of 0% funding? Like you said, it sounded too good to be true.
Yeah, it definitely did change my mind, especially on the business side of things, because in the past, I only knew of doing that with personal, but it definitely changed my mind because it's allowed me to just keep going. Like there's no stopping me now because I know I have Fund&Grow behind me in my back pocket in case I need to, get more funding but it definitely changed my mind. It changed my look at business. I also learned with dealing with Fund&Grow, like, yes, my personal credit is going to be pulled. However, once I have these business credit cards, I have to continue to work on my business credit profile, and my business credit is not going to show up on my personal credit unless I default on one of those credit cards, which I definitely don't plan on doing because I want my business credit to look stellar as well as my personal credit because everybody's looking at everything. Yeah, but it definitely changed my mindset.
Yeah, none of our clients, and I doubt any of your clients, Keisha, are getting into borrowing funding thinking that they're not going to pay it back. I mean, we're business owners. We got big aspirations and dreams above the average person. And for that means that we need access to leverage of our credit. Our credit is an asset. And I don't know about you, but when I was younger, I didn't see this so clearly. I kind of had messed up my credit. And so I had to fix my credit. And that was a whole process. But now, fast forward to today, I literally have $700,000 of these 0% business credit cards. And all in all, I have over $2 million in terms of funding available. But in terms of just the credit cards alone, I've had up to $1 million at one time. And so you can really do a lot with this type of funding. But let's get a real life example. Would you be willing to share with us a story from a client or a different project where the funding made like a real difference? Do you have any real life examples?
Yeah. So one of my clients that I brought in, my partner, she was able to get the $75,000. So she was able to obtain funding with Fund&Grow. And now we're both brokers. So we both broker, our personal businesses are separate, but we're both under the Clear to Close brand. So because we can't fund our own deals, we work together and we fund each other's deals as far as, a fix and flip. So we're actually getting ready to close on one of the properties in Florida, where she would use her personal funding that she obtained through Fund&Grow as the down payment. So I'm also working with her to just coach her along the way, so that she knows how to cash out on the credit card so that she can use those funds to pay as a down payment and, just use the same strategy that I've done to my personal.
So, and that cash out part is really important because for the listeners, I want them to know that Keisha is not recommending a cash advance. She's talking about using the payment services that Fund and Grow teaches, such as Melio payments, plastic, these types of like Bill.com, these types of third-party payment services. They allow you to swipe the credit card and to pay an escrow account, for example. That's how Keisha was able to buy real estate with it, or swipe the card and pay a dealership. That's how Keisha was able to buy a company vehicle that she owns free and clear. So these third-party payment services are really powerful because what we're doing is we're getting 0% cards. And so when we use the 0% card, we have to use the card as a purchase. Right. I can't go to the card and do a cash advance because that'll be at like 20% interest or something crazy. So the way to do it is to use these third-party payment services that will actually purchase. They'll do a purchase on the business credit card, and that's what they're set up to do. And so when you do it the right way, you're going to be able to use the credit card to purchase virtually anything that you want, just like Keisha, buying real estate, buying company vehicles. And honestly, you could buy any other type of thing that your business needs as well. Have you had a problem buying anything with the cards?
So I haven't had problem purchasing anything. Just swipe it and keep moving.
So most vendors, they accept credit cards. So if Keisha's flipping a house, she can have her employees go to Home Depot and she can use her business credit card to purchase directly the rehab materials she needs. But let's say that Keisha's working with a plumber or an electrician that does not accept credit card. That's where these third-party payment services would come in. Like, for example, not every dealership will allow you to buy a car on a credit card. You might have to use a third-party payment service. Not all escrow accounts are going to allow you to swipe the card. You might have to use a payment service. So basically, it makes it possible for you to spend with any vendor or business, regardless of whether they accept credit card or not. So Keisha, where can our listeners find you online and connect with you? We've been talking about Kapital Keys Solutions, but what is the name of the lending company that you would like people to connect with?
So it is Kapital Keys. So Kapital Keys is blending. Yeah. So you can find me on Facebook, Kapital Keys Solutions. But I'm mostly on Facebook. So Facebook is the best.
Are there any resources or programs or services that you're currently offering in Kapital Keys Solutions, beyond Fund&Grow, of course, that you'd like to share and tell people about?
So we do fix and flip loans, DSTR loans, cash out refi. We do land and development. We also do commercial. So that's all on the lending side. So I'm a broker and I'll be able to connect you any and everything that you need in regards to real estate investing. Because in order to get started, you have to have some type of capital. So, either we're going to start with Fund&Grow or we're going to go straight into these other loan types. Can definitely assist any and everybody with whatever their needs are.
And what's really cool about Fund&Grow is that for all the real estate investors out there is that it's not tied. When you get like Keisha's, for example, her 102,000, well, really 175,000 is not tied to any specific property. It's not tied to any specific deal. She can draw on it whenever she wants. She doesn't have to go and report to someone when she wants to draw on her loan. You guys know how it is with construction loans and when you're getting money for a rehab. And so this is money that's not tied to a specific asset. And that's really huge. We also have truckers that come to us that are looking to buy their own rigs outright. So that's really cool that you're helping people with that, because that's just absolutely blowing up right now. So many people are buying their own rigs. It's really cool. So Keisha, what is one final piece of encouragement that you'd give to entrepreneurs who feel stuck? You've obviously become very successful. You have 3 businesses. You're mentoring others on how to do this. What's something that a piece of advice that you could leave off on here where you could encourage investors or just anything that you feel would be uplifting and helpful?
So my word to everybody is just to keep going, keep learning, keep building, and just keep moving forward. If you have a setback, just know that setback is for the comeback. So just keep moving forward and don't give up.
I don't know about you, Keisha, but when I got into funding, I didn't know anything about funding. I had bad credit, like I mentioned. I didn't know anything about anything. And if I hadn't just kept on trying, kept on moving forward, failing forward, if you will, stumbling, then I never would have figured out how to walk. I never would have figured out how to run. And I never would have figured out how to do what I'm doing now. And I, of course, was not the best at it when I first started. I'm sure there was other people that were way better at it, but not anymore. Now we're the best. But but the point is, if you don't get started, then you'll never ever make something of yourself. You're never going to build a business. You're never going to do anything if you don't get started. You can live in fear your whole life working for someone else. And it's crazy because if we look back at the founding of our great country hundreds of years ago, almost everybody in one way or another was a business owner. They were perhaps a farmer, or maybe they were a hunter or a trapper, or maybe they were doing woodworking. There's just a whole variety of things that they were doing, and they were bringing their wares directly to the market. They weren't working for a big Fortune 500 corporation. And nowadays, 99% of the population works for someone. They're not putting their own destiny in their hands and becoming an employer and actually building not only their communities, but also our families and ourselves personally by doing all of this. And it's always to me very remarkable to think of the foundings of America and how everyone was so self-determined at that point, and now how we all think that we're self-determined now, but in reality, 99% of the population works for someone else rather than representing their own wares in the market. Well, thank you, Keisha, for coming on and sharing with everyone your experience with Fund&Grow, as well as sharing the resource of Kapital Keys Solutions, because I think a lot of people could be helped through that. But I just want to thank you again for coming on and appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Ari, for having me.